I'm going to show you some tips about stitching your own iPhone case. So the kits come with the blank cases that are already ready to be stitched. You can see the holes in them. They also come with the threads and the needle, color chart, and instructions. But I'm just going to give you some tips today. As you can see, I'm going to show you one that's been finished already. If you look up close, that the outermost holes around here don't go all the way through. So you won't be stitching in these outermost holes. So the second row in will be the edge of your stitches. Okay, so I wanted to make that clear first of all, where it's easier for you. So now I've got my thread, and usually, well, when you do stitch with on fabric, you don't knot your thread, but in the case of these, using a plastic case, it's perfectly fine. It's a good idea to secure it with a knot. So I knot one end, and then your kit comes with the number 24 tapestry needle. And then to figure out where to start, you want to look at your chart, and a guide is the hole where your camera is for your iPhone. And I like to start at the row, the first complete row under the hole. Now there are 33 stitches across, so you want to be sure and take a little time in the beginning to center your work, or you won't be happy because everything's going to be off a stitch. So if it's 33 stitches across, then it's going to be, if you find your middle stitch, you're going to have 16 to the left and 16 to the right. That's 32 plus the one in the middle, which is where you're going to start. So what I go ahead and do is I mark my starting point. So this is going to be, right, this is 16. This is the first stitch here. So that means there's 16 to the left and 16 to the right. So that's the first stitch on my chart. Now to find that point, hold it up so you can see that little mark. So 16 to the left, 16 to the right, the first complete row, which is under where the camera hole is. Okay, then I pick up my case, and this is the first row that corresponds to the chart. So as I mentioned, the first hole you can't stitch through. The needle does not go all the way through. Okay, so I count from the right part of the first stitch. So the first, each stitch takes 2 holes across. So this would be the first hole, so the top left of your stitch, and this is the top right. So I count from the right top of the stitch. So this is stitch number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's my first stitch. That's the end of the stitches to the left. Okay, and then what you can do is, I eyeball it, but I can, what you do is you start from the lower left of the X. So a good way to do it is just put it where you think it is and then double check. So in other words, if this is the lower left part of your X, the lower left corner of your first X, then you're going to have 16 stitches to the left. So let's just double check. Okay, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, that works. So if that's the lower left, this is the lower right, this one stitch over. So that's the right side of your middle stitch there. Okay, so counting from there, let's just double check that there's 16 on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Perfect, the 16th one goes through. Okay, so lower left of your stitch. What you want to do is go up diagonally to the right, just one hole from where you started, and put the needle down. So you've made half of a first X. Okay. Hope you can see. And then we'll come up from the bottom right of the X. You don't want to pull too tight, because if you do, then you're going to see the plastic through it. Just keep it a gentle taut tension. Okay, and then you go down on the top left of your stitch. Okay, so with some fabric stitching, you'll be stitching all your bottom stitches in a row and then coming back and stitching all your top stitches in a row. In this case, you want to do it X by X, stitch by stitch. And these are all X's, no fancy stitches, no back stitching, just a plain X. And so now, looking at the chart, the best way, what I do is I stick with the same color until I use up the thread, okay? So you can work from the left, right, up, down, because you don't have to worry about the tension of a fabric. This is plastic, it's not going to get distorted, so you can work in any direction, which is kind of neat. So you'll see this is the middle of the row, but it's red all the way to the end. So what I would just do is go all the way to the end. So we'll work to the left, and we want to be consistent. It doesn't matter really if your bottom stitches go left to right or right to left, and your top stitches vice versa. You just want to be consistent. So in this case, my bottom stitches go from the bottom lower to the top right, and all my top stitches go from the right bottom to the top left. And so they'll just be consistent. It will be a nicer finish. So we're going to work to the left, so it's the lower left of the stitch to the upper right, and then you can actually work from put the needle up either from the lower right to the top left or the top left to the lower right. It doesn't matter which order. So I like to put my needle up where there are the least amount of threads in that hole. It just makes it easier. So we'll work from the top left to the bottom right. So that's stitch number 2. And we'll do another one. The lower left to the upper right. So you're just making little X's, not pulling too tight. Top left to the lower right. And you just keep working that way. So like I said, what I do is, looking at the chart, is I'll stick with the color until I run out. So from there, probably how I would think it through, you could, do it a different way. But working to the left, I do this little guy there, this little stitch, come down, and then probably do this piece of red. Okay, and then I just work basically out like a, from wherever you start, you want to work your next color that's adjacent so that you don't have to worry about matching the chart in the right place. So in other words, I wouldn't go here and then jump down and do the pink. You just kind of it bleeds out from that center point. So you could do all the red if you wanted and then work up here and finish that up. And then you might want to move to this periwinkle color. One is a pink one that's almost done. And you can see I'm working with this dark color of pink. And it's getting pretty short, so I'm going to need to end my thread. So I'm going to do a final stitch. So the easy way and secure way to do this is you turn it over and just make sure you have it, you left enough tail to work with. And the cool thing is, since these have little holes, you can kind of cheat. So what I like to do if I'm close to the hole, makes it easier. But you can also bend these a little bit. That's not a problem. They're sturdy. But you can just put the back end of the needle, poke it through the hole to give yourself a little more length. And this is where the point where the thread comes through. And I just work the needle through, gently through, about, I'd say 4 or 5 threads, so it's anchored. Okay, and then pull the needle gently through, so that way it's not going to come undone, your thread, and then just snip it there. And you've ended a thread, and then you're ready to start your next one, like I showed you with the knot, following your chart. Okay. You can see these slip right onto your iPhone, and there's a nice hole that's got your on-off button here on the top, spot for the camera, spot for your plug, the mute button here, and your volume buttons on the side, and here's where you charge it in. This is where you listen to the earplugs. So it's all ready to go, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much.